or you've already seen our social media channels, or you have seen our newsletter. We're excited to launch our first children's book. And yes, I said first because we have already developed some plans for our next book, which we'll share more about in the future. So stay tuned for that. So Hummingbird Hour is the weekly conversation series in July to celebrate Hummingbird Humanity's 1-year anniversary. We launched in May of 2020 last year and are just thrilled that we are still here and that we get to do work that is making a difference in the lives of others and making the world a better place, which includes the book that we launched today. Okay, so Lexi Thrash is by the way, is our new business manager at Hummingbird Humanity. So let's all say, welcome, Lexi. I wish we were in a room together so we could all scream, welcome, Lexi. Lexi's gonna be an attendee today, and so she'll help with questions in the chat, and we'll be posting links and things of that nature. So if you need anything during the call, feel free to reach out to Lexi. And let's welcome well, actually, before we do that, so again, welcome to Hummingbird Humanity's Hummingbird Hour. And today, I'm Brian McCormick. I am the CEO and founder of Hummingbird Humanity. And today, we are launching our first children's book, My Grown-Ups. And we have the two artists that brought this book to life with us. We have Sarah K. Turner, who is the illustrator, and her illustrations are just stunning, gorgeous, beautiful. And we're going to hear more from her about what was her inspiration and how did she really harness the messages from Kate and Kate's stories from her real life. And we have Kate Costigan, the author. Yay!
Oh, hi.
Kate, congratulations on publishing your book.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and just to share this book and these messages with the world.
It's very exciting. So for those of you who are watching and listening, there's probably a bit of delay. So I will just explain that very quickly because we just like to answer the questions that you might have. I am really grateful that I have, after 16 months of being a nomad, landed in my new home in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I don't have internet yet. So I'm using my phone as a hotspot. So I might switch to my phone for the Zoom here in a minute. And we're just gonna roll with it and make the best of it. So fantastic. Kate.
Yes.
Would you tell, let's do some just introductions.
Okay.
Would you just share a bit about who you are and as a professional, let's start with the professional thing, and then you can say who you are as just a person, and then maybe add in how we know each other.
Sounds good. So my name's Kate Costigan. I am by trade an elementary education teacher. I taught kindergarten for 11 years, then I switched to teaching first grade for about 6. And then for the past 3, I was moved into the role of behavior specialist, which I like to describe as like a counselor, a security guard, and a teacher, kind of all wrapped into one. And actually, something Brian doesn't know, and a lot of people don't know, is next year, I have accepted a position to go back to teaching first grade at a new school. So I just accepted that position earlier today, and I am very excited about it. As a person, I am, first and foremost, Christy McCormick's fiance. And Christy happens to be Brian's baby sister. So that is how we know each other. That is kind of what connected us. And, you know, together over a family meal, we decided to take this journey together. And then along the way, I've met some amazing people, including Sarah Turner. And now here we are, just doing this together. And I'm so excited. I have the chills. I have my grown-ups t-shirt on, and I'm ready to, again, share this message.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kate. I still can't believe that like there's a book. It's a bit surreal, like that it like can happen, because we started this conversation back in, it was in December, was the first time you read
Yeah.
the book to me. So we'll tell that story in just a minute.
Okay.
We have to meet our other special guest. Sarah, would you share a little bit about yourself professionally and personally?
Sure. So my name is Sarah K. Turner. I've been an artist for as long as I can remember, but I've only started to do like professional art in children's books in 2020. So, you know, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I've only been able to work from home. But I think that's great as an introvert because I get to meet, you know, so many people around the United States and work on their children's books. So I met Kate through Halo Publishing International, which is this little self-publishing house in Texas. But I have to say, you know, Kate's book is one of the most favorite projects I've ever worked on. She was just so great to work with. The story was so sweet. I remember I sent the manuscript to my partner and he told me that he like cried the first time he read it because it was so sweet. But yeah, it was such a pleasure to work on this book and I'm very excited to, you know, be a part of it and to promote it today. Yeah.
Well, and Sarah, I know I think I've already said it twice on the call, like your illustrations were just so stunning. And, you know, I think it's really, for me, it was just really beautiful to see, having heard Kate's story and knowing some of the stories behind the story, and then seeing those images come to life in such beautiful imagery was just fantastic. So thank you for the great work you did to bring the story to life.
Well, thank you.
Of course, of course. Okay, so let's just, we started the story a minute ago of how this Kate had an inspirational moment and led to, there's a book today. So Kate, do you want to tell how we got from where it was before and where it is today?
Sure. So within my life, being an educator, you know, you encounter many, many different types of students and just from my own personal experiences, something besides connecting with students, that's a big strength of mine. And another strength of mine has kind of always been writing. When I was younger, my teachers really loved my stories and short stories. When I was in 8th grade, they sent me to like Ringling College Young Authors thing. I won some award. And it was always something I do. I find that I express myself better on paper than I do in person. And I always kind of knew I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know what that looked like. I knew I had a message, but I wasn't sure what the message was. And then one night I was stressing, as teachers often do, about a particular student who was going through a really rough time at home. And I thought about their grown-ups and how their grown-ups were failing them and they just needed someone to like swoop in and they just needed something more. And this particular student's grandparents were stepping up to take hold of this child and get them through this rough time. And I was 3 o'clock in the morning and I had little rhyming things on my phone, but I picked up my phone and this just poured out of me. And the next day I looked at it and was like, I can change that. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what about this student? And what about this person? Or what about this situation? And I was able to kind of craft the story from that. So through my own personal experiences, which my mom passed away when I was young, and my grandmother, my mom's mom, she fought my father for parental like custodial rights. So in the state of Florida, in the early mid 80s, that was not heard of, but my grandma won. And she was they were the first grandparents in like Florida history that were granted parental rights. So they had joint custody. I was with my dad through the school year, but then she had me every school break. So I say I'm the world's youngest snowbird because she lived in New England and we're in Florida. So that was, she's a character in my story, you'll see. So that experience kind of set the foundation, and then the other stories of these students that I've encountered and different people I've encountered over my life are embedded in the other characters. That is how it came to be on paper.
Yes. You didn't tell the breakfast part of the story.
Oh, you want me to tell how it came to be in real life? Okay, so then I had read it to Christy, my fiance, and I'd read it to a friend of mine who has 2 children of her own, and they were both like, this is phenomenal. And, you know, when you create something, it's scary to put it out in the world. And it was scary. And Christy was like, you need to read this to my brother, read it to my brother. And I read it to Brian. And then we went to breakfast a day or 2 later, and he looked up from his whatever breakfast, and he's like,
French toast.
A French toast. And he was like, I think we should publish your book. I want to publish your book with you. You don't have to answer me right now, but we should do it. And I was like, okay. Having no idea what that looked like, right? Because I've never launched into an endeavor this big. I'm a classroom teacher. I don't know. And then he introduced me to Halo, and Halo introduced me to Sarah, and kind of we got the ball rolling. And I now, having this in my hand, it's like such an accomplishment, and I'm so proud. And you know, Brian, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And you know, I probably wouldn't have thought to like publish it if I hadn't had that push and that support and that behind me. And then slowly, as I shared the story, and then when I was getting like sketches from Sarah, I'd share them and like to my friends, and everybody was just like, oh my gosh, who is she? She's so good. And they're like, this story is awesome. And people were like, I teared up. And I've gotten just a really great response to it. But again, I wouldn't have ever gotten to this point if it weren't for both of you. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so grateful that you said yes and trusted me and the Hummingbird team and the Halo team with your story. I can only imagine that there's some vulnerability there that had to be should be demonstrated, and say we're going to have some trust and it's going to be great. Thank you for going on the journey with us, because I'm so excited, and I know that the book and the message of it, the book has meaning for each of us and many others. Sarah, just before we went live, you were sharing a bit about that. Can you tell the audience what the book meant to you and the people you shared the story with?
Yeah. So my partner and I are both LGBT. We're both mixed race, and it meant a lot to us personally, reading the story, just the words, to like have characters that we saw ourselves in. And especially in a children's book, like knowing that kids, if we had a book like that growing up, how different we would be. So it was very meaningful in that way. And talking with Kate before the book began, she was saying that, representation and diversity is very important. So I wrote down in my notes, it has to be diverse, has to be representative of, the world that we live in. So that was very, influential for me before I began the project.
I love that.
Yeah, and knocked it out of the park.
So today's Hummingbird Hour really is, we're going to praise Sarah for an hour.
That's all I want.
We do love your work, Sarah. It's because it brings the story to life in such beautiful message and imagery, and the representation that comes through is, as you just said, is representative of the world that we actually live in. Mm-hmm. And so many children's books, unfortunately, do not have that representation. And I am honored and grateful that Hummingbird gets to be part of the community of people that are putting out books that allow kids to see themselves in the pages. And I think that's a really powerful opportunity for us to also educate other kids and let them share there are people that look like you and people that look different than you. And there's so many different variations of how we all show up as humans. And that's really, when I heard the story for the first time, when Kate read it to me, I heard that recognition of all of these different lived experiences. It just came through really beautifully. And as also a member of the LGBTQ plus community, the concept of how we define family has been important to me for many years. Of course, I'm really fortunate. I'm very close to my biological family, my mom and dad, and my sister, of course. But my chosen family is hugely important to me. And I consider them, I mean, we use the word phrase chosen family, but they're my family. So I really loved when I heard Kate's expansion of that message of how do we help kids feel seen when, rather than saying, who's your mom and dad? We can ask them for their grown-ups, because everyone's grown-ups might be a little different. So with that, I think we should hear the story. Kate, would you do us the honor of that one? That one, yes.
In true teacher form, I'm going to read it like a teacher. I haven't done this in a while though, guys, so bear with me. And if you can't see the pictures, you're missing out. I'm just kidding. My Grown-Ups, written by Kate Costigan, illustrated by Sarah K. Turner. This book is dedicated to my mother. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. Heidi M. Slade. Well, this is as real as it gets. Sorry, guys. And my grandmother, she was awesome, guys. Faith Fairman Conrad, and to all the grown-ups who helped to make me me. Okay, I'm over that part now, I can do it. Here we are together at last, starting the year in our new class. Some of us got here in buses, some got here in cars. Our teacher may have arrived on a rocket ship from Mars. No matter the way we got to our room, when we go home, there's one thing we don't need to assume. Our grown-ups will be there. My grown-up was my grandma. She really loved to eat. My other grown-up was my dad, who helped me make friends with everyone on our street. Slade's grown-ups are both girls. One has straight hair, one has curls. Leah met her grown-ups when she was 3. They met her and knew she completed their family. Rowan's grown-up is just one mom. She is very short and always calm. Emerson's grown-ups are her grandma and grandpa. The fun in their house is always nonstop. Nico has 4 grown-ups at home and gets to stay with each of them alone. 4 grown-ups in 2 different places. Think of all those smiling faces. Miguel's grown-ups are named Abe and Brian. His family loves to dance and they are always smiling. Lee's grown-up is his sister. She came home from college to raise him because he really missed her. Your grown-ups at home might look different from mine, but it doesn't matter. That's awesome. That's fine. Grown-ups come in all shapes, sizes, colors, and ages. None of that matters, not in the story or out of its pages. The thing that is most important and true is that no matter who your grown-ups are, they take care of and love you. And this beautiful page talks about the amazing hummingbird humanity. There you go. The end.
Such a beautiful story.
Thank you.
I've been dying to ask this question, and I can't believe that I haven't asked it. Were you a fan of? Is that a tutu you're wearing in the book? Oh, is it a little skirt? What is it? Was that one of your favorite things? I'm just curious.
No, that was complete artist capturing. But honestly, I thought about it, and I think that like if I'm invited to elementary schools, so that character is a representation of me, and I'm like already online looking for like that outfit basically. And I have a friend Meredith who 100% she would just like make me one, and I was like, that would be really fun. So I love it. You know me, Brian. I'm not like a tutu girl, but I would rock it.
Well, and I think that was part of where the question came from for me was, I'm like, that doesn't feel like the Kate I know today, but we evolve and grow over the course of time, right? So Sarah, why did you put Kate into tutu in the book?
Just to see if I could get away with it, honestly. You know? I think we all had a crazy outfit or tutu phase when we were younger, at least I did. So in my head, when I was sketching the little Kate character, I was like picturing a young girl who dressed herself that morning. So we got like clashing stripes, we got a tutu, we got a striped shirt. So it's just all these crazy colors and patterns that a little kid would wear. And I think it's just like the personality trait of a main character to look as crazy as possible. And I'm really glad that you liked it in the end.
Well, what's funny is there was a time in my life where I did live with just my grandmother. It was kind of like I was in transition, and I was 6, and she would tell me stories like when I grew up. She's like, Kate, you always insisted on picking your clothes. You always insisted on it. She's like, but you would pick like nothing matched ever. She goes, so what I did was, as compromise, I would put your outfits together on hangers. So, and I'd say, you can pick whatever you want, just pick a hanger. And she's like, and you know what you would do? And I'm like, I'd pick a hanger. And she's like, no, you would pick the shirt from one and the pants from another. You would pick from different hangers and you still never matched. And I was like, sorry.
Who needs to match? Matching's overrated.
Really? Exactly.
Just be you.
Yeah.
Just be you. I love it. I love it. So, Kate, are all of the characters in the book, are they inspired by real humans?
Actually, yeah. Yep. Some of even the names of the kids are, and I, I still interact with a lot of students I taught, and I still interact with kids every day. So I had some conversations with these people, and they were like, oh my gosh, that's the greatest idea. Please include our story. And I said, the illustrations, it might not look like you because I want to represent more than just us. And they were like, totally awesome. So yeah, every situation is a one I have encountered over the years. And to be honest, we can expand on this. There are different situations that we could expand on that aren't included in the book. But then the book would be 50 pages. So I had to keep it somewhat condensed.
Sarah, I don't know if we've told you this, but I know Kate and I have both received requests for additional stories already from people in our lives. So one of my friends and colleagues, her name's Bee, she identifies as a lesbian, and she's a grandmother, and her grandkids don't know any grandparents who are lesbians. And so she's like, can we just have a lesbian grandmother in the book, the next one, which I love. And my friend Karen, she and her husband are beautiful, beautiful humans. They have 2 biological kids. They are a foster family. And so they have had, I think it's now over 40 infants in their home over the course of the last 12 to 13 years, I believe. And they've adopted 4 of those children. And they currently have 3 additional foster kids in their house. So It's a lot of kids. And they just open their home and hearts, which I love. And Karen was someone I asked to read the book before we actually even went into the process of developing the book with Halo. And I was just curious what she said. And she said, Brian, I love this, love it. And what she said is that the conversations that would the book would catalyze are indicative of the conversations she has with her kids every day. She's like, they come home and they like ask these questions because the families of everyone's families don't look like the old form of mom, dad, daughter, son. Like it's not, that's not how it works anymore. And so she's having conversations with her kids a lot.
Yeah.
So Sarah, it feels like it would be a significant responsibility, and for me it would be a significant amount of pressure to bring someone's story to life visually. So I'd love to hear how you, just in general, how you approach that on being an author's vision, and then I'd love to hear a bit about the journey you took with Kate.
Yeah, for sure. So usually whenever I start a new project, we, communicate either through Zoom or phone call just to get an idea about, what they want in the story that they didn't write in the manuscript. Because it's hard to communicate all of that in like a single sheet of paper. So I usually meet with the authors to figure out what they like to see. And then after that phone call, I usually go right to my sketchbook and like jot down notes or what I had envisioned while they were talking. So I remember the first sketch I did, actually have that here, was of little Kate. Because when I read the manuscript, I was like, this story has an invisible narrator. And I just drew, little Kate running around to the different neighbors and interacting with them. So that was where the idea for that came in. And then these sketches, I don't think I've ever shown you. I probably don't show these to any clients just because it's so messy. But these are the thumbnails for the pages. And as you can see, they're just so messy, but they're just to get the ideas from my head onto the paper in a visual way. And that's just really to help break down what's happening in each page so you can get the clean version of, the messiness.
Wow. I haven't seen that. That's really cool. You had shared the images of little Kate, but you didn't share that. I mean, I understand why, but I love it.
Right. The process.
Yeah. That's really great.
It's really, really cool. So how did you, how did you two work together? Like, because I know, and intentionally, I agreed at the very beginning that I was focused on the business side of things, and she was focused on the artist side of things. And so she kept me out of the loop. She would just tell me like, it's moving forward. And I know because my sister told me that she wanted it to be a surprise for me, which I love. But I'm curious, how did the two of you work together to find the way to illustrate and honor the story? Sarah, you go first.
I
love that when I didn't say who should talk.
Like, right. So the character sketches really helped me visualize what everyone would look like. There's a couple more here. The first versions of the characters looked very different from the final versions. And that's just kind of how my brain works to, put it on paper. But after talking with you, where you were saying you want each family to be diverse and different, I had to rework that a little bit. And the sketches that I showed you, in their final form had those diverse and, other representative of different families at the end. But I'm curious to hear what it was like on the other side of those emails.
Honestly, Sarah made the process so incredibly easy. You're very easy to connect with. You're very easy to talk to. And you're very like just overall professional and kind. And, we had these conversations, and I remember saying like, at the end there are a few things that I want. I want one character to be wearing an Appalachian State University shirt because I went to Appalachian State. I was like, and I want my grandmother to be represented. And other than that, I was just like, here are the words. And, I do think a block party is a great idea because when I was young, we lived in a community where we were in Florida though, where the first and last day of snook season, we would have like a neighborhood block party. It did not look like the one in this book. It looked more like fishing on the beach, but the whole neighborhood was there. And that's kind of the information I gave Sarah. And then she was like, came up with the idea of little Kate and tying it all together in the pages, and everything that you shared with me. I was just like, give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more. And there wasn't, I think there was one thing that I asked to change throughout the process, and that's it. And it was just, again, a seamless, you nailed it. And the fact that she complimented it right away and told me that her partner really liked it and it touched his soul, I was like, okay, I'm in, like hooked. You're staying. So that's kind of how it was on my end. Just good.
I love that. I love that. Well, and I remember I was able to join our first meet and greet call with Sarah and just say hi to Sarah. And I would agree, like you, Sarah, you just have such a warm energy about you. So it was easy to connect with you. And then I let the two of you, because the two of you had to bring the magic. So let the two of you really build your rapport and your bond. One thing that I was curious about, Sarah, is the, when I of course, looked at your website, which if I remember, if I'm correct, it's sarahkturnerart.com. Is that right?
Yes.
For anyone who wants to go visit your site. Yep. Each of the stories where you have selected images from, those they have their own, what I'll call it a color, probably is a color palette. Like there's blue, is are there meanings behind the colors that you chose?
Could you repeat the question one more time? It was really cut up.
It didn't work very well, did it? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Sorry. And apologies to all of you out there listening and watching. The interwebs aren't always cooperative. So when I looked at your website, there's one story that I remember seeing the images of, and it feels very like bluish or purplish, is the overarching sort of color palette. And this color palette feels probably more oranges and yellows. And so I was just curious, like, how do you choose that? Is it just whatever you're inspired by that day, or is it by the story, or does it have meaning? Just curious when you're bringing in something to visually to life, how you think about it.
Yeah, there definitely is an attempt at color theory in each book. I say an attempt because sometimes it's a little more muddled than others. But I certainly try to use color to help narrate the story a little bit. So we have the words and the images, that's on one level, but then the color, it should support the story, I think. So for the Blue Book, for example, the story I think was called The Boy in the Blue Boots. So I wanted blue to be like a primary color in it. And then as the story progresses, like it gets happier and sadder, depends on the different parts of the story. But in this book, it was a very bright, lively, family-friendly story. So I think in my head, I wanted to use the primary colors most. So we have the blues and the reds and the yellows, just really bright, vibrant colors to make that block party feel alive.
Awesome. Kate, you becoming the celebrity you are, have a question from one of your adoring fans in the chat.
Hi, Heather.
And it's from so Heather asked, how long were you thinking about doing this book before moving forward with the idea?
It kind of goes back to, like, again, I've always kind of wanted to write something. I just didn't know what it looked like. And probably from the time I put it on paper to the time Brian and I had our conversation about deciding to really bring it to life, it had only been a couple of weeks. And I think because I got excited about it, like to have something that seemed like a cohesive story, because I'll pick up my phone and make notes all the time. And it's just a way of getting what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling onto paper and letting it go. So there are starts to different ideas and different things on my phone. If I ever lose my phone, guys, that would be bad. But this was the first time I really looked at it and thought like, wow, this is actually a story. So really from the time I wrote it on my phone till the time we had the conversation, it had only been like less than a month. So I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, just throw me a text.
Well, and I remember, Kate, that you and I talked about even just potentially future stories, which you mentioned there's lots of other stories that could emerge from this community. And what I heard you say, if my memory serves me well, is that the inspiration has to strike, which I do not. I would love to be an artist. I do sing on occasion, but there are so many just talented artists in the world, and that theme of that inspiration, that vision coming to them is, I think, something I've heard a lot, and so that really made sense to me. So I think that's how this book came. It just came to you one day, right?
Yeah, it really did. And like, I feel like once, if I sat down and kind of like sat with a character from this story, that might happen again. It kind of already started a little. So, hopefully we'll see more of these individual characters come to life with this team, but we'll see.
My grown-ups part 2.
The story of Slade.
I love it. I love it. Kate, what is your hope for the message that you've shared in this book?
Well, first, I just want kids and adults alike around the world to just see like genuinely what the world kind of looks like. And I feel like this is a snapshot of what families look like today, because it's not, again, the stereotypical mom, dad situation, I want children that are in different grown-up situations to feel proud and not be ashamed. Another story I'll share is after my mom passed away and I moved down to live with my dad, I had to do a family tree project. And it was really, really hard for me because when everybody was sharing their family tree, mine didn't look like theirs. And it wasn't that I didn't have a mom, because I had a mom. I did. She just wasn't there. And when you're a kid, you don't understand, like, I didn't understand, why doesn't it look like that? And then my parents had been divorced. So there was some of that going on and nobody else around. And I remember in second grade, I think it was 7, I felt shame. I was 7 and I felt shameful and I didn't want to share and I didn't want to have those conversations or be proud of like what my home looks like. And as I got older, clearly I didn't care. I was like, oh, hey, because I got to have great, amazing grownups in my life, that some chosen, some family, and it kind of like all worked out how it was supposed to. So I hope that this book kind of gives kids that confidence and that pride to be like, my family might not look like yours. Totally awesome. But in addition to that, I feel like this book can start conversations that, guess what? Love is love is love. There are grownups that have kids that happen to be the same gender. There are grownups that are grandparents that are raising their grandchildren. So it's not their grownups are they're older. Who cares? So I think it can be a springboard for just conversations about that stuff. And I, of course, did want the characters to like be diverse because, again, that's the world around us. And I want people to ask questions and learn from asking those questions.
I love that. A few years ago, I had a chance to hear Marley Dias speak. And Marley Dias is the founder of 1,000 Black Girl Books. She founded the not-for-profit, I believe it was when she was 11. And what was the inspiration for her was, you know, she had this conversation with her mom and dad, and said, why aren't there characters in the kids' books at school that look like me? And Marley, it happens to be a young Black girl. Well, she's now probably in her 20s, actually. I'm sure she's still conquering the world because she was amazing as a young person. And that led her to, you know, having a conversation with her parents about all of the kids that don't see themselves in the books and school. And so she wanted to be part of that change and founded 1,000 Black Girl Books to bring children's books with characters of color to all the kids in her school district. Really just a phenomenal story. And that has really stuck with me. And that actually has been, I should probably credit Marley and that opportunity to hear her speak, which then led me to start exploring what are the kids' books that are telling stories of those of us that are different. And so I've bought so many of those kids' books for friends and, you know, for kids of my friends, and I follow just to see like what's the latest stories that are emerging, and how are we allowing kids to see the world through a new lens. What does that look like? So it's so exciting to be part of that, and just represent the beautiful diversity of our world and my grown-ups. Sarah, what would you hope that the book does from here? And I know that the illustrator helps the author bring their story to life, but I'm sure it becomes part of you as well. So what is it? What are your hopes for the story from here?
Well, it certainly becomes a part of the illustrator, especially a story like this, you know, where I personally connect with it. Not many books I work on where I'm like, that character's like me, you know? And I sincerely hope with this book, as with, you know, other stuff I do on the side, is just to help normalize the idea that a family isn't just mom, dad, brother, sister, you know, not this nuclear traditional idea of family anymore. I truly wish that my grown-ups, you know, normalizes the idea that family is what you make of it. I love the quote that you guys gave, love is what makes a family. Yeah, I just really hope it spreads love and acceptance and positivity.
I hope so too, absolutely. And Kate is modeling the shirt with that quote. It has little Kate and love is what makes a family. And there's actually another shirt design that just has the text "Love is what makes a family" using the title art from the book as well. And I think we're really going to do what we can to champion the message that love is what makes a family. And let's all start honoring the grown-ups that raise wonderful humans, and let those wonderful young humans be seen, and just ask them who their grown-ups are. So I think that would be a beautiful evolution for all of us as we
and I'd like to sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just to say that we're working to create a world where everyone is seen, valued, and heard. Go ahead, Kate.
And I just want to encourage people to reach out with your stories. We have a My Grown Ups Facebook page. We have a My Grown Ups Instagram. And I would love to hear your stories. I did post asking for some of those. And I found out I have a friend from college who adopted her biological niece. Well, she was raising her niece, and then when my friend got married, they adopted her, and it is her daughter. And now my friend's sister is like the best aunt ever, and I'm like, this is an amazing grown-up story. Like, you helped raise your niece, but she's your daughter. And I was like, mind blown. The other day we were at the post office and we had some copies out still. And the woman behind the desk was like, is this a children's book? What's it about? And Christy actually took it to her. And she was like, my grandmother raised me. And right now I'm a single parent raising my daughter, and I need one of those. Where do I get one of those? I need this. My daughter needs this. And we're getting these stories, and they're like so touching, and it just makes this so much more real and so meaningful to me that it's true, and it's very validating. So please continue to share those stories with us, and let us know if we can highlight you on our Facebook page and Instagram and things like that, because I'd really like to do that. And I'd like to kind of build that community where it's another resource for families to go, wait, no, look at this, she was raised by her grandma, or, oh my gosh, it's a single dad. Oh, look, it's a dad and a bonus mom, and a mom and a bonus dad, and that's cool. Like, it's fine. You're lucky you've got 4. So anyway, I wanted to share that, and hope that and everybody out there feels comfortable sharing with us, because we'd love to tell those stories.
I love that language, bonus mom and bonus dad.
Yeah.
Let's reframe the perspective on STEP, because I know, because it doesn't have the best branding, so we're gonna call it the bonus mom and dad. The other thing that I want to make sure we share is we encourage kids to get in on the fun too, and we are having a coloring contest where we have taken the outline drawings from 3 pages of the book, and kids can color the page for their age group. They can color all of them. They can just submit the one for their age group, and we're going to have a drawing and select some winners in mid-August, and it's going to be lots of fun. So get your kids involved in the conversation, and let them have some fun coloring some pages from my grown-ups. Okay, well, we have a few more minutes left, and I want to make sure I ask, Sarah, was there anything else that you were hoping to share on this conversation that we didn't get to? Or any final words you'd like to share?
Not that I can think of, but hearing people you meet tell you that they feel seen in your work, that is 100% why we make art and why we do the stuff that we do. And I think that's just wonderful that you've already started to receive comments like that.
Yeah, it's been great. And it's comments on our work, Sarah, because I think that some of these people are also seeing they see themselves too. Like, it's not just in the words. So thank you again.
Of course.
Yeah, none of us can do anything that we need to accomplish alone. We all help each other and are part of successes. Kate, actually, I'm going to say a couple words, and then Kate, I'm going to leave the final words with you. So I, again, am just delighted that, Kate, you trusted us and that you said yes to this journey. I hope that this book does impact hearts and minds, which is something that is important to the work I do every day. And I think it's a really great opportunity for us to impact kids who are going to grow up to be those grown-ups, and let's introduce the diversity of our world that's beautiful to them when they're kids, so they can celebrate and honor it from the very beginning of their journeys. So I just love that's what's happening in the world around us, and that we get to be part of that. Thank you for allowing us to bring your story to children and grown-ups around the world.
Well, thank you. And I guess in closing, I just want to thank the Hummingbird team, thank Halo Publishing International, thank Sarah again, and thank, the readers of this story who are willing to take this journey and take the time out of your life to open these pages. And hopefully when you read this, these words speak to you, they resonate with you, and it's a message you want to share with your coworker, with your neighbor, with your best friend who's expecting, just with the people around you. I really, this wasn't a book written for a financial situation. This book was written because I had a message and I have a story that I want to share with the world, and the way it has been brought to life, it can be a springboard for so many conversations. And I feel like it captures the diverse, beautiful world we live in. And if you want to be a pioneer or just a person who supports diversity and inclusion and equity and kindness and love, then this is a book that I hope you feel does that, because that's how I feel. And that's what I've encountered with this team, is all of those things. And it's been really great to work with people that are like you and like-minded. So thank you again. And that's all I got.
Awesome. Awesome. Sarah and Kate, congratulations on book launch day. And hope you enjoy this moment, and hopefully the many more moments that will come as people experience this beautiful story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone with us live and watching later, thank you for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. And until next week, stay safe and be well. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.